All right, it's a fairly hot day today, so we're not in the office, but I wanted to have a quick chat with everyone about two things. First of all is going to be Core Web Vitals, and the second thing is going to be fish cutters. So stay tuned for that. A couple of weeks ago I put out a tweet that turned out to be rather controversial, in as much that some people were disagreeing with it, and some people were quoting articles from Google apparently, but quotes of things that John Mueller said on Twitter or on blog posts or whatever, basically that Core Web Vitals aren't important. Now, I happen to have the contrary opinion about that. I think Core Web Vitals are just about the most important thing in enterprise SEO at this point in time. But that's not to mean and not to say that they're going to be important for everybody. I fully respect that and I fully understand that. However, that's not to say that they're not important in every circumstance. So there's a great quote that I'm going to put up on the screen now. It's from Arthur Schopenhauer, but I don't know. I'm not very good at pronunciation of German surnames. Sorry. But basically, people can only judge their environment by what they're used to. And if you're in the situation where you might be working on some small sites that don't have indexation issues, and you've fixed Core Web Vitals problems in the past and you've seen absolutely no difference, you could be absolutely excused for thinking that it's not important. However, that isn't the case. So, as we know from countless tweets and countless articles on the subject, Core Web Vitals are at best something that's used in a tiebreaker between two pages. And that's an entirely false scenario, because the reality is the ranking algorithms are so complex these days. There's very, very unlikely to ever be that kind of scenario. So why bother doing it? Well, it really, from my perspective, is quite simple. The easier it is for Google to parse and understand a page, then the more likely you are to have that indexed. If you've got a website which is hundreds of thousands or even hundreds of millions of pages large, the amount of effort that Google has to go to successfully crawl that site is quite phenomenal. Now, it's something that I didn't really appreciate myself until I started working really in depth with crawlers a number of years ago. And the reality is, we've slowed down the web so much that Core Web Vitals, specifically the speed element of Core Web Vitals, not necessarily the UX items and the UI items, are of critical importance when you've got an enterprise class website. So, in the tweet that I put out a couple of weeks ago, I referenced the fact that a month previously, we'd taken a site which has got 50 million pages on it. We'd taken it from 0% good on Core Web Vitals all the way up to 100% good, and that site had seen a 40% increase in traffic. So 2 weeks ago, however, I was looking at the Google Search Console of a different site, which has got its own problems, and basically what they'd done is they'd fixed all of their Core Web Vitals issues, also gone from 0% good to 100% good, and it had a negative effect, an actual negative effect on their unbranded search. The reason for that, after about 5 minutes of digging in, is that the site had horrendous duplicate content issues where, there's no need to go into technical details, but basically, every time the crawler was going around the site, it was generating another copy of the site. So they had, I think they had 58,000 pages in their sitemap, and they had a couple of million pages that were crawled and unindexed. Now, each and every one of them had the extending query string issues and so on and so forth. But by fixing the Core Web Vitals, and specifically by fixing the speed on this site, they'd compounded the problems that they otherwise had. They made it easier for Google to quickly see that there was much more duplicate content. And over the course of the following 2 weeks, they lost traffic rather than gaining traffic. So the point here really is Core Web Vitals, and more importantly, making it easy for Google to crawl and understand your site is vitally, vitally important. But it's more important that you get the rest of the things that are wrong with your site sorted out first. If you're fixing the speed on a site that is fundamentally terrible for SEO anyway, you're not going to be doing yourself any favours. So I maintain Core Web Vitals is critically important for SEO in 2023, but you've got to make sure you've got the basics right first. So, let's have a look at the two graphs. Here you can see the two of them. You can see the difference in timelines. Now, the top one went up 40% in traffic. The bottom one went down 20% in traffic. Yeah, as you can see, both of them have fixed their Core Web Vitals. So unfortunately, to use that old SEO trope, well, it depends. And it depends very much on what your site is like at this point in time. So everyone needs to take a second and just think that maybe the experience that you've got says something different to the way that many other people are thinking. But that doesn't mean that those people are wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. It just means that situationally, you haven't seen it happen that way. Anyway, it's time for a fish cutter. Fantastic fish cutter. So fish cutters are basically like hamburgers if you're in America or the UK or the rest of Europe indeed, but instead they've got a nice fresh bit of fish which is kind of grilled with like a spicy rub over the top, and oh my god, they are nice. Anyway, if you fancy some fish cutters and you're into SEO, just a gentle reminder that Barbados SEO is on in November. Check out @BarbadosSEO on Twitter or go to BarbadosSEO.com for information, and hopefully I'll see you in Barbados this November. Cheers.